You stepped out of the carriage, Shoto taking your hand, inhaling the cold breeze, and taking in your surroundings. The sky is sweet blue, and Shoto picked the perfect spot for a picnic. A grassy hill under a single tree. The blanket is laid out, and there is a great feast on it, fit for 2 royals. This is very nice, Shoto, but why is there so much food? You ask him, sitting on the blanket. He sits down next to you. My father doesn't know we're out here. Better to make it the best of it? Did he just come up with a joke? You smile. Then let's dig in. It looks amazing. You pick up the closest thing to you, a small plate of fancy cheese crackers. You take a bite and marvel at the taste. You catch Shoto staring. Aren't you going to eat? You ask him, and he shakes his head. I want to tell you something, he says, his voice quiet and his head hanging. The real reason I brought you out here... Oh my God, your heart thumps. Is this a confession? Since you told me of your past, he says, I feel obliged to tell you mine. Your heart returns to normal. And you scoff yourself for having such a silly thought. Suddenly, all of your questions about him when you first met come flooding back, and so, give him your full attention. He clears his throat. Well, as you know, my mother and father were in a forced quirk marriage. You nod. That one of the rumors you've heard, and after coming to his palace, you assumed it was true. Who else would be considered to take the throne if something happened to you? I'm vaguely heard of your siblings, you asked the prince, trying to be considerate. My mother is no longer considered queen by many of our people. She spends her days in the hospital ward, being tended to by nurses, so not her. Shoto continues, but I do have siblings. Fuyumi, my sister, and Toya and Natsu, my brothers. We were raised separately, though, and my father sees me as a superior. I do not know what would happen if I did not become king. You nodded, and you can tell this is a sensitive topic, but you wanted to know more. Where did you get that scar? You entirely ask. I don't feel comfortable speaking anymore, he says, sort of harshly. You must have hit a nerve. I apologize, you say. Let's continue eating. And do. Oh, and so you do. And you refresh in exquisite desire flavors of the picnic your fiancé prepared. Once all the food was gone, you thanked him. Shoto, you say, this is amazing. A nice change of scenery and wonderful food. Thank you. 'Tis my pleasure, he says, standing up. Father must be furious. We should meet him at the market. You climb into the carriage with Takashi waiting for you, and head for the market, dwelling on what Shoto revealed about the royal line. You arrived at the farmer's market, but Shoto left you in the carriage for an unknown reason. You are sitting with Takashi. He must know something. Takashi, you ask him. Yes, your highness? How long have you been a guard here? He thinks for a moment. Well, I was raised to be a guard and chosen by the king and to guard the queen. I've been here for quite a while. So he guarded the queen once upon a time. Pardon for me for asking, but how old are you? Surely not much older than myself, you ask. He laughs. Oh boy, I'm turning 29 this year, so I'm getting there. Okay, one more question, you say. What do you know about Shoto's scar and his siblings? Takashi's smile disappeared. Maybe you should ask him that question. I'm not sure if I'm authorized to tell you. Takashi, I am the future queen and his future wife, you say sternly. I think I deserve to know. My apologies, your highness. Of course you do, he sighs. When Shoto was little, the king put him through quirk training and stuff. The guard rubs the back of his head. The queen was put through stress and developed a certain connection between Shoto's right side and his father. She burned him with boiling water. Takashi states, but that's not what caused the mark. She tried to ease the burning with her ice quirk, and in the end, that was what was left. A scar. That's awful. No wonder he didn't want to talk about it. And what about his siblings? You ask. Takashi currently was looking very uncomfortable. Both Fayumi and Natsu act as a representative for their kingdom and other villages, although that's probably their excuse to stay away from King Todoroki. Toya's no longer here. You observed the new information, trying to make sense of all of it. No longer here, is he? He's dead. Takashi whispered, making you stop. Before you could think any further, Shoto returns, his father behind him. Welcome to the farmer's market, my love, Shoto says, pretending once again. The villagers await for the arrival of their future queen. You step out of the carriage, Shoto helping you down, and looked around the market. People were everywhere, shouting and clapping, stands filled with the town square, selling varieties of items including food, jewelry, and trinkets. Your eyes glimmered at the sight of the happy people, children chasing around each other, giggling and shouting. A stand owner shows off her jewelry to a couple, making them smile. Everyone's so happy. Your Highness, Takashi says. Oh yes, let's go to the middle of the square. The villagers are expecting you. Takashi smiled. You followed him and Shoto to the middle of the market, and onto a small stage-like structure. King Endeavor holds up his hand, and the chatter stops. A woman hushing her baby, and the children stop and frown at the sight of the king. He gestures for you to come forward, so you step in front of him, Shoto at your side. Shoto gently takes your hand and making the crowd clap and cheer at the sight. My people, he says, loud but not quite as loud as his father. I am glad to introduce my fiancée, the princess of Mitsuka Kingdom. The people rejoice, although you didn't see why. The king takes over, his booming voice filling the village. Now, on with the festivities, he says, as if he didn't want the villagers to praise you. Wow, shook ass. The people do as told, and rush to stands and their friends to mingle. The sight makes you smile, but then you remember. Shoto, you whisper to him, why are they so happy about me being your fiancé? I was sure they would hate me because of our kingdom's rivalry. He looks at you. Well, that would be true, but our marriage means I'm one step closer to becoming king. They would do anything to escape my father's grasp. So, they're very excited. They're never usually this happy. You nod and fumble with your hands. How unsettling. They would do anything? Shoto clears his throat, probably sensing your uneasiness. You may look around if you like. You smile, glad to change the subject. Why, yes, that would be nice. Let's go then. You take his hand, trying not to think about the way his face shone pink when you did. Takashi trails behind. You both explore the stalls, the endless food, trinkets, and jewelry when a certain stand catches your eye. A pale-looking boy seems to be selling what looks to be a little wooden figure. Upon closer inspection, you realize they're one of the royals. Shoto seems interested. Sorry, I almost said injiggerment. Your Highnesses, he speaks. Do you see anything I like? You smile at the green-haired boy and pick up a small wooden figure of your father. The details are perfect, each carving his large, carefree smile. How much? You ask politely, holding the figure out. That's King Mizuka. He smiles. I made it myself. They're only $5. Nonsense, you scoffed. This is great work. spitting image of my father. I'll give you 30. 30? He stutters. Your Highness, that's way too much for a small trinket. It's a handmade trinket, you say, smiling. One that you, no doubt, worked very hard on. Plus, where else would I find such a rarity? It can comfort me while I'm away from home. Shoto starts to bring out his bag of money, and you noticed he's holding a figure also. But, Princess, the boy continues to argue. Stop, you say. Take the dollaramiums and be happy. It's an order from your future queen. The boy blushes and stops as told. Shoto, which one did you pick? The boy hands the 60 dollarims covering both of your figures, then turns to you. He holds out a wooden figure, and you reckon it's his mother, the early Queen Ray. You smiled. She's beautiful, you say, then turn to the boy. What's your name, sir? You can call me Izuku, your majesty. Izuku Midoriya. He blushes. Thank you for your purchase. You bid Izuku farewell, and then continue to browse the stalls with Shoto and Takashi, greeting many villagers as you can. Finally, you've made full circle, and sat near Izuku's stall to rest. It's been quite the day, Shoto says to you. How do you feel? You act as if I'm sick, you giggled, then continued. I feel great, like I actually did something, even though I just socialized with people. Shoto smiles, the same one he makes when you hold his hand. You did well. You would be a great king. Your heart drops. Shoto, don't lose sight of our mission. I don't want to be queen here. You know that. He looks like you just shot him and suddenly regret saying anything. You remember the night you spent in his room, talking about how to dethrone the kings. You told him how you wanted to rule your own kingdom, and how he should be able to rule his without any chains or recognitions. The plan hasn't been set in motion, and you wonder if it will ever. Maybe you don't want this? Maybe you just wanted to stay with Shoto.